today we're working on the midpoint formula. The formula for this is going to be x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2. And then this is a comma because it's a coordinate point. Keyword is midpoint. And then I'm going to have y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2 for my y value of my coordinate point. Okay, so looking at my first one, what is my coordinate point for, oh, I need to label them A and B. So I'm going to label the one on the left A and the one on the right B. What's my coordinate point for A? And my coordinate point for B? Okay. So this is just having us guess where we think the midpoint is and then using the formula to actually check. Where do you think the middle of this line is? Just give me a coordinate point. Just -3 or 0, -3, so we think it's right here. So to actually figure it out, I need to plug into my formula. I'm going to label this first point x1, y1, the second one x2, y2. And I'm plugging into the formula. I'm going to have -5 plus 5 divided by 2. And then for my second point, I'm going to have -4 plus -2 divided by 2. So what is -5 plus 5? 0. And it's still over 2. What's -4 plus -2? -6. And then I can divide both of these by 2. So what's 0 divided by 2? And -6 divided by 2? So we were right. Our midpoint is actually 0, -3. Okay, so on number 2, I want to label my A and B again. What is the coordinate point of A? What? -1, -3. And my coordinate point of B? 5, 4. So where do we think the middle is here? Doesn't have to be right, it's just our guess. 2, 1, okay. So then I want to go ahead and plug into my formula. I need to label my points, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So plugging in, I'm going to have -1 plus 5 divided by 2, and then -3 plus 4 divided by 2. Okay, what's negative 1 plus 5? And negative 3 plus 4? Okay, so I can still simplify at least one of those. What's 4 divided by 2? And 1/2 is just going to stay 1/2. So my answer here is 2 comma 1/2. So we were close with our guess. Okay, so on number 3 I want to label my A and B again. What is my coordinate point for A? And my coordinate point for B? Okay, what do we think our midpoint is here? Okay, I'm going to make that a fraction, so negative 3/2, 0. Okay, so plugging into my formula, I have to first label my x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So then I'm going to have negative 5 plus 2 divided by 2, and then 0 plus 0 divided by 2. Okay, what's negative 5 plus 2? Okay, and 0 plus 0. So I can simplify one of those fractions. I'm going to leave the negative 3/2 alone. 0 divided by 2 is just going to be 0, so our guess was right. Okay, so for 4 and 5, instead of having a picture, I just have the points. So I'm just going to start off by labeling x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So plugging into my formula, I'm going to have 8 plus 2 divided by 2, and then 8 plus 4 divided by 2. Okay. 8 plus 2 is 10. And 8 plus 4? And then 10 divided by 2? 12 divided by 2? So my answer here is 5, 6. Okay, same thing for number 5. I'm going to label x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So then plugging in, I'm going to have negative 10 plus negative 4 divided by 2, and then 4 plus negative 7 divided by 2. So negative 10 plus negative 4? And 4 plus negative 7? Okay. So I can simplify one of these. What's negative 14 divided by 2? So on the back side, I have the distance formula. This is what we talked about yesterday, so I'm going to write it down again. This is the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared added to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. So notice, whenever I'm subtracting, the order switches. I move the second term, or the second one out front. Okay, so our next example says, your school is 4 miles east and 1 mile south of your apartment. A recycling center where your class is going on a field trip is 2 miles east and 3 miles north of your apartment. Estimate the distance between the recycling center and your school. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to say my apartment is at 0, 0, just to make things easy. And then on my coordinate plane, I'm going to write my directions. Remember, it goes north, east, south, and west. So if my school is 4 miles east and 1 mile south of my apartment, I'm going to go 4 to the east, 1 to the south, and this is going to be my school. So my school is 4, negative 1. Okay. And then it says the recycling center is 2 miles east and 3 miles north. So I'm going to go 2 to the east and 3 north for the recycling center. That coordinate point is going to be 2, 3. So it wants me to estimate the distance between the recycling center and my school, so I'm going to draw a line to connect these. Okay. So I want to plug into this formula. I'm going to label my points, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Then I want to use my distance formula. So I'm going to have the square root, and then my x sub 2 is 2, minus my x sub 1 is 4, square that quantity. And I'm going to add it to my y sub 2, which is 3, minus my y sub 1, which is negative 1, and I want to square that as well. Okay, so what is 2 minus 4? Negative 2. And what is 3 minus negative 1? Remember, that's the same thing as saying 3 plus 1. 4. Okay. So what is negative 2 squared? And 4 squared? 16. 4 plus 16 is 20. Is 20 a perfect square? Can I do this one in my head? No. So I want to do this one in the calculator. Remember, to do this, I'm going to go second And then the x squared button has this little tiny square root symbol above it. I press that, and then I'll have the square root on my screen. And then I just type 20 and press enter. I'm going to round, does it tell me where to round? I'm just going to round to the nearest tenth like we were yesterday. So it's going to be 4.5. And this was a word problem, 4.5 what? Miles. So I turned them into decimals and then added them together. So numbers 4 and 5, these ones give me an endpoint and a midpoint, so I have to solve for my other endpoint. So this is going to be my x1, y1, and these are going to be my final answers. So what I do here is I have some other x that I don't know what it is. So to solve, I'm adding -1 to something and dividing by 2. And I get my midpoint answer of -9. Okay, so this is just an algebra problem that I need to solve. First, because everything is being divided by 2, I want to multiply both sides by 2. So I end up with -1 plus x equals -18. And then how do I get x alone? So I get x equals -17. So then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for my y value. I know that one of my y values is 9. I don't know the other. And I know that I'm going to have to divide by 2 to get my midpoint. And when I do all of this, it should give me -10. So my first step here is to do what? Multiply both sides by 2. And on the left side, the 2's cancel out, so I have 9 plus y. And then 10 times, or -10 times 2 is -20. Then I want to go ahead and do what to get y alone? So I get y equals -29. Then all I have to do for the final part of my answer is to put it back in coordinate points. What letter comes first? X, because it goes alphabetical. So I have -17, -29 for my answer here. Okay, so for number 5, same idea. I have one of my endpoints, and I have my midpoint. So I'm going to start off with -6 plus x, because I know one of my x values, I don't know the other. Divide by 2 because it's a midpoint, and it should give me 4. And then my first step is to multiply both sides by 2. So on the left, my 2's will cancel out. I have -6 plus x equals 8. and then I add 6 to both sides, and I get x equals 14. Then I want to go ahead and do the same thing for my y value. So the one I know is 4. There's one I'm still missing, so I'm going to use y. And I know that when I do the midpoint formula, I should get 8. So then to get this by itself, I want to start off by multiplying both sides by 2. I'm going to have 4 plus y on the left, 16 on the right. Guys, stop talking. Then how do I get y alone? Then I get y equals 12. So then to write my final answer, it's what? Yep, 14, 12. Okay, so I'll work through the last two with you. It just wants to find the distance. So I'm going to use my distance formula. I want to label x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Plugging in, I'm going to have 4 minus 5 squared plus 3 minus negative 6 squared. And this is just using the formula at the top of our page. What is 4 minus 5? Okay. And 3 minus negative 6? What is negative 1 squared? Positive 1, because 2 negatives make a positive. And 9 squared? Okay. 1 plus 81. And the square root of 82? 9.1. So same idea for number 7. I'm going to label my x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Plug into my distance formula. So I'm going to have negative 2 minus 7 squared plus 4 minus negative 1 squared. What's negative 2 minus 7? Negative 9. And then 4 minus negative 1? 5. What's negative 9 squared? And 5 squared? 81 plus 25? Okay. And the square root of 106?